Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. This is going to be a special webinar. We're going to sort of cover two things at once. We'll start with a little bit of an overview of TeamQ, and then we'll see how we can expand the TeamQ functionality. TeamQ is our call center application for advanced work groups or knowledge groups. And it's similar to an ACD system, but it really has a slightly different focus. So we're going to be talking about what kind of groups can use this and exactly what kind of functionality is available. I'm going to do a short overview of TeamQ here, and then David's going to take over and talk about expanding TeamQ with the products that come from Envision. If you look at distributing calls to multiple groups of users, there's a number of ways to do that in the enterprise. The simplest way, of course, is to use hunt groups or response groups in Skype Enterprise. And this basically can be set up to route calls and share them among a group of users. It can be a round-robin distribution or longest idle, various other ways to do that as well. At the other end of the scale, for those true call centers where people are taking call after call and the focus is really on productivity, you have contact centers or multimedia contact centers. Those could be a separate product or a set of features on the PBX. Both those ends of the spectrum are well covered, but there is a gap in the middle. There are certain groups of users who don't really fit in either category. A hunt group doesn't really have the power and the features needed, and contact centers can be kind of restrictive. And it has to do with how these people perform their jobs. There's two types of users out in an enterprise when it comes to call centers or managing incoming calls. There's knowledge workers and task workers. Now, task workers, those are the ones that typically we find in an ACD environment with a call center. They have a very structured job. They answer the phone, they interface with the caller, perhaps go to their computer screen, read some information back or enter some information, hang up, and move on to the next call. They have very little, if any, personal workflow. And the focus there really is productivity and handling those calls as efficiently as possible and then getting reporting information on that process. But there's another group of users, and we tend to call them knowledge workers. They're answering calls, but that's not all they're doing. They have personal workflow as well. They might answer a call and then go do some research and basically won't necessarily simply take call after call. It's a very unstructured process. We tend to talk about IT help desks as an example of this type of group, where there's 5 or 6 people taking calls. They all have different skill sets. They tend to answer the phone and then pass the calls around to make sure they can have coverage of the various topics. And somebody might take a call, and when they're done with that call, they might go do some research or even go out and visit the caller's desk to install a patch. Knowledge workers don't really fit very well either in a hunt group or into an advanced ACD system. It really doesn't work for them. Both of those are a little bit too restrictive. So TeamQ is perfect for that. With TeamQ, what happens is we answer the phone, we interface with the caller, we ask the caller questions, take that information and display it on a screen, and then the agents can pick a call based on their skill sets or perhaps their territory coverage, and then they can take that call. When they're done with that call, they can look at the queue, and maybe there's nothing there that requires their attention right now, so they can move on and do another task, keeping TeamQ open that whole time to know when they have to jump back in and take calls. So TeamQ is really designed as an informal type of call center. As soon as we released TeamQ, the very first request was for call recording. So in a recent software release, we added basic call recording. Basic call recording in TeamQ will let you set up agents and record their calls. But we found in that process of talking to our end users that they also had a very strong interest in getting more than just recorded calls. They were looking for more information on the queue. Now, TeamQ on its own has some reports, and it has call recording, but they were really looking for more detailed information, perhaps capturing the screen, the transaction itself, linking that call to other data in their systems, being able to use all that historical information to create staffing schedules and things along that line. That goes a lot further than we go with TeamQ. Fortunately, we found a partner in Envision who does just that. So I'm going to let David talk for the rest of this, and he can tell you about their products and how they augment what's already available in TeamQ.
Excellent. Thank you, Neil. I want to just talk a little bit about Envision and kind of our background, and then we'll get into our product, our flagship product, Click2Coach, and how it's interfaced with TeamQ. We're located here in Seattle, Washington. Been doing this for 24 plus years now, always focused on the contact center. So a lot of those traditional task workers or contact center agents and the processes that they handle day to day We've really focused on that, and with a real focus on helping them improve and helping customer experience and providing management information around efficiency and productivity and quality and customer experience. Really happy to partner with TeamQ and create the direct integration with TeamQ to really enhance that product, but also make it easy to deploy, provide a lot of flexibility within a traditional contact center with TeamQ, but also focus on the knowledge worker as well. We've got lots of great customers in the industry and kind of are deployed across the board in many different verticals and industries that you would imagine out there across the board. So just a little bit about kind of our approach around interactions and contact centers. Certainly, we still see the preponderance of interactions with customers is through the phone, but we also recognize that there's omni-channel available as well. So a knowledge worker or a task worker might be doing emails or responding to chats, or maybe you have a team that's focused on social media responses. We wanted to make sure that we're also able to record those interactions and treat them with the application from a quality perspective or from customer experience perspective as well. So creating discrete interactions that can then be reviewed, make sure that things are going the way that we want them to, and then provide direct feedback to the agents. And then we took it a step further and wanted to be able to capture data around those interactions. And that data can come from a host of sources. It can come from TeamQ. They're going to be sharing data with our recording platform to make those recordings much more interesting and easier to find based on data that's available through TeamQ. But we also wanted to be able to capture data from the agent's screen applications. So we've developed a number of listeners that can pull data in from a CRM application or from maybe it's a billing management system, or whatever applications that the agents or the knowledge workers have on their desktop. If there's data that you're familiar with finding those records by, we wanted to make that available within Click2Coach so you can find records similar fashion. So think of things like maybe it's product IDs or ticket numbers or case numbers or disposition codes, or maybe if you're doing clinic scheduling, what clinic did these people get scheduled to go to, and then being able to pull back that information and categorize interactions to make those interesting within the call center, so you can find the calls that you're most interested in a quick fashion for standard things such as quality review, but then also be able to share it within and without outside of the contact center as well. So maybe you launched a new product and you want to get those types of calls around that product to your product manager, or maybe your purchasing department, or maybe you're trialing some new marketing messaging and you want to find those calls where that messaging is being reviewed and spoken, so the marketing folks can take a listen and understand, did I really get the proper messaging and how are customers reacting to that. But being able to share interactions or make the data around interactions interesting throughout the enterprise. So some key features within Click2Coach, and I'll try to spin this as towards the knowledge worker as well as towards your day-to-day task worker, is again just capturing those interactions. So full-time recording of inbound and outbound interactions, recording both the voice and screen, so you not only hear the interactions but see what's happening across the board on the screens of those workers from beginning to end. So if they have 1, 2, or 3 screens, we'll record across all of those. You can see how they're handling their technology, how they're doing workflow, accuracy of data input, how they access knowledge that's available within the organization, all available through reviewing the screen. And then that can be played back as a kind of a video playback of those interactions. So you can really get a sense of what's happening within the cockpit, so to speak, on these types of interactions. And then we allow for kind of what we call advanced quality monitoring. So being able to find those interactions through search and through keyboard data that we're either capturing through the interactions themselves or through some of that data that I mentioned, and be able to categorize, find those interactions, really shorten the length of time that you're looking for things that need to be evaluated either from a quality perspective or from a business analytics perspective, so you can get really down to what you're interested in, high value interactions for your specific needs. And then we have the ability to create customizable evaluations within the tool. So if it's a task worker, there's usually a prescribed workflow, and your workflow can be documented within an evaluation form, and you can check off things from simple things like from greeting to soft skills to knowledge skills that they need to have, how they close those calls. But in the world of a knowledge worker, where some of those calls are unstructured, they can go in different directions, they can maybe take different tacks. You can also create custom evaluation forms that are more focused on the overall process, or how they got to the knowledge, or how they conveyed knowledge within their calls. And maybe they're not even scored evaluation templates. You can have non-scored forms. And we can make that available. A lot of times you might not have somebody in the organization that's really qualified to do a quality review, so to speak, of those knowledge workers, because they have very specific jobs and tasks. But we can make it available for peer-to-peer review or for self-review as well for those knowledge workers. And we find that, specifically at the more advanced skills within those types of tasks, sometimes the best way to lock in your own knowledge or develop your own skills is to listen to somebody else that's maybe a peer, and then be able to formulate that and provide feedback to that person through teaching and training. You can hone your own skills and develop additional skills and provide feedback to your coworkers from a peer process, or from even just a self-evaluation process, kind of analyzing how you handled that call and maybe what you could do better in the future. So we wanted to make it available outside of the regular realm of the task worker. A key component of Click2Coach is also being able to create and distribute e-learning content. And we have 3 ways of doing that, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail when we get to the next slides. But those knowledge workers, as they're handling those calls and creating that knowledge and providing feedback, one of the ways we can create e-learning content is directly from those interactions themselves. You can convert the entire call from the knowledge worker into e-learning content, or you can clip out certain parts of the call that have high relevancy to maybe other knowledge workers, or maybe it's information you want to share with your frontline folks or with your task workers to help them improve and develop as well. And a lot of times, if you go to a knowledge worker and say, man, you've done a great job, can you document that, or can you write that up for me? And they have no idea where to start. They have the knowledge and the skills, but how do I document that? Or maybe you go to somebody and ask them to do that, and it's like, well, let me just show you. So this is a way for them to create video and e-learning content, reusable content, through their spoken words without having to put a lot of effort into it. That can, again, be used for helping to train other folks, or helping to train maybe frontline folks, and create those custom e-learning clips that can be delivered through Click2Coach as well, directly to other folks through our desktop portal for other agents to be able to access and use. We have a couple other methods to create content as well, and I'll get into those here in a minute. And then the desktop tagging, again, being able to capture information that you're very familiar with, that are within your other applications that in the past have been very hard to access or get put into the recorded interactions. And we've created those listeners and capabilities to get that data, again, to do analysis or find relevant calls for quality purposes, or maybe, you've started having more calls around a certain product. So let me pull back those calls for the past week that have that product identifier, and be able to listen to those calls and how they're being handled, and really what is the customer asking for. And then we can also use that same technology around either sensitive information, so personally identifiable information. A lot of time we don't want that recorded, or maybe it's you're taking credit card interactions and taking payment, and we don't want that information recorded as well, so we can be compliant with PCI standards. So we can build in triggers to pause and resume the recording during those areas of sensitive information, and then at the conclusion of that part of the call, we can resume and pick up the recording from there forward to the end of the call. And then just being able to use those tags to categorize interactions and get those maybe to the right folks that have the need to hear specific types of calls. And then we also have, as an option with the product, speech analytics. from simple keyword spotting. What words are you interested in? What words do you want us to tag within the call, so you can go either directly to those areas in the call where those words are spoken, or use that for reporting, trend spotting, and phrase spotting, so you can make sure that either you're getting access to the calls that contain those words, or you can also have a relevance of confidence that certain words that need to be spoken during types of calls are in fact being spoken for compliance purposes. So we'll get into a little bit about each part of the product, which is modular. And this is the Click2Coach user interface, and I'm in the search screen here. So if I came into the product and simply hit search, it would pull back all interactions that are in Click2Coach. But then you can start defining which calls you really want to listen to by individual, by team, by queue information. Do I want to listen to inbound calls or outbound calls? And then I can also start doing searches based on those keywords or those data tags that I want to have. So I'm really bubbling up to the surface the calls that have the most relevance for me at that moment. And if it's something I know I'm going to do in the future, I can save those filters, what we call a saved search. So I can use those filters over and over again, or I can share with other people that need to access those same types of recordings, either inside or outside of the contact center. So advanced search capabilities to get to the calls you're most interested in with the highest value, and then directly from the interface you can open up and evaluate that call, start entering data into the evaluation forms that then become driving data around quality, efficiency, and customer experience. So you can report on those or create dashboards or pull data out after the fact to really understand what's happening, with different workers or teams, and then take action and provide feedback, relevant feedback that's going to help improve those interactions overall. And this is just an example of a dashboard. So everybody that has access to Click2Coach can create kind of a customized dashboard through our reporting system. So we have probably close to 60 different canned reports within the system with the ability to add custom reports. And then many of those reports are dashboardable. You can create a custom dashboard. So you can take a quick look at what's going on in the call center for any given day, week, or time period you're interested in, and then drill down into those reports and get access to the raw data behind that to do further analysis. Look at trending, and then again, being able to use the tool to not only understand what's going on, but take action within the tool itself. And one of the ways that we can take action and either help drive change or improvement or get emergent information out to agents in a quick fashion or to knowledge workers in a quick fashion is through the e-learning module. And I already mentioned that we can use the interactions themselves to create content. And again, from a knowledge worker perspective, there are more of the type of people that want to show you rather than have to document or tell you, or maybe they don't even know what you're interested in to be able to pull out and create documentation. So being able to use their actual relevant live scenario call recordings as knowledge, as reusable knowledge in the e-learning database is a real easy way for them to share their knowledge with peers or share their knowledge with frontline folks to help them improve and develop. The other way to use our e-learning module is to actively turn the technology around on yourself and record your own voice and screen. And this is a really key feature, again, I think, around the knowledge worker if they do want to create some training scenarios or they've found a new way to solve a problem, and they can create that video of how they got there, what needs to be clicked on, what needs to be changed, how to access knowledge, and record their own screen and create video content and then make it available for reuse through the tool and distribution through the tool. And then the last way, the third way that we can create and distribute content is through existing information. So if you have existing policy documents, procedural documents, maybe product detail specification documents, or internal corporate videos, or external data that you want to share within the e-learning system and distribute to your workers, you can easily drop in a URL to any of that content, publish it, and then distribute it through the tool to the folks that need that information in a timely fashion, or create curriculum around that for new hires or people that you're onboarding so that they can use any of this content in a fashion to kind of get up to speed faster within the system. We also have a workforce management module, and this is outside the realm of interaction recording, but this is getting the right people on the phones or available for the phones at the right time. So this is a scheduling module. So we can take historical call arrival patterns or historical email patterns and be able to develop a forecast based on that. So which types of workers with the right skills do I need on the phones or available in my contact center at the right time, so that we're staffing appropriately to meet service levels throughout the day or throughout the evening to meet the service levels and goals. And this will also take into account not only work that's arriving in either planned or unplanned work that's arriving, but it also gives you the opportunity to fit in breaks, lunches, training, different meetings, and it will automatically use an algorithm to place those meetings and those lunches and breaks at the appropriate time. That's going to allow you to take folks off the phone but still meet service levels based, again, on that historical arrival patterns that we have within the system. And then within our advanced WFO offering, again, the data tagging is kind of a picture's worth 1,000 words here. So if we can capture structured data from that desktop, so it could be, you know, which physician is somebody being sent to, what procedure do they need to have, which clinic are they going to, or which product are they taking calls about, or if it's, you know, any different types of data, account data, your high-value customer data that you want to be able to pull back calls for your top accounts, you'd be able to use that structured data that we capture to pull back those specific interactions. We use that same technology that can tag data to also know when you've opened up a payment field or start entering credit card information to pause recording and then resume recording once we move past that area within the workflow. We can also look at things that are non-phone related and look at workflow for maybe back office work. You know, a lot of knowledge workers will spend some time on the phone, but then they've got follow-up work or research that needs to be done. And we can also look at that workflow or capture some of that information as well. So that's not restricted to just phone calls or during the call, that we can capture data and understand what's happening within the environment. And then lastly, again, as I mentioned, we have kind of different levels of speech analytics. So capturing keywords that are then marked within the calls so that you can go directly to the point of call where those words are spoken. Or you can start looking at trends or histogram type charting of, you know, what's changing. Why am I starting to get a lot more calls around quality? Is it calls that are good quality, or do I have a quality problem that I need to get ahead of and understand what's going on within those calls, and then be able to go directly to the areas of those recordings and get context around that. So this is a really nice way to filter, search, and find interactions, but it's also a way to just have some good reporting quickly at hand to be able to do some analysis and take action based on what you're seeing from a training perspective. So we've worked with AVST to create 3 packages for consideration. The first one being the Click2Coach package, and this is with what we call our D5 recorder, and I'll explain a little bit more about that here in a second. But that really is the majority of what I've talked about today. That's going to record your voice and screen. It's going to give you access to create the custom evaluation templates so that you can focus in on helping different folks within the organization, from the task worker to the knowledge worker. It gives you the ability to create the e-learning and coaching content and then be able to distribute it directly to the workers in their seats through their portal. And it also gives you kind of the performance management pieces, all the reporting and dashboarding and analytics to really help you identify and spot trends, let you know that if the changes you made through workflow or the changes you made through training are really getting traction, so you can spot that trend and do an analysis on that. And then the middle package is the Envision Standard Workforce Optimization Suite, which is the base Click2Coach product, plus workforce management component that allows you to do you know, predictable forecasting and scheduling of workers to make sure you got them in the right seats at the right time to meet service levels. And then our advanced package incorporates the desktop data tagging and the speech analytics package that we talked about. So that gives you kind of the full host of options that we reviewed with you today. Talk a little bit about delivery and architecture. So how do we make all this happen? With the integration with TeamQ, it really, the work is done. It's really easy to deploy. In many cases, we can deploy by simply deploying our client to the desktop, and there's no additional hardware needed at all. That client can record voice and screen, do the speech work, do the data tagging, do the pause resume, and that's recorded at the desktop level, and then that's bundled and zipped and pushed up to our hosted platform. So we host on Microsoft Azure is our hosting platform, and everything's contained there. So all the traditional things that you might need to deploy on-premise, such as databases, the servers for hosting the user interface, all the storage, all those pieces are taken care of by Envision. And then the byproduct of that is you also get access to upgrades and new features and new content as we publish it and release it. Simply by logging on the next time, you'll get access to the new features. So there's no more scheduling costly upgrades or waiting for that next release or postponing releases or swapping out hardware as it ages and changing on-premise compute because we take care of that for you through Azure. Now, if you are an organization that requires that you host or keep all your data within your firewall, we can also deploy this in what we call a private cloud and put it within your data center and stand up the technology stack for you within your data center and accessible behind your firewall. So it can be deployed as a hosted model or a premise model. But in many cases, we have customers that are rolling out simply by deploying the client. And making it available within days rather than weeks or months that you might anticipate with a traditional call recording platform. So again, kind of some of the key features and things that we talked about today. With Click2Coach, you can really custom tailor your quality program for the traditional agent or task worker. But you can also create quality programs around that knowledge worker. They're often forgotten in the process or don't get provided regular feedback or maybe peer review or knowledge or coaching within their workflow. So this is a way to kind of incorporate that into your organization, but being sensitive to them as a knowledge worker as opposed to a task worker, and provide them relevant information and feedback, and also get them involved in the process and help coach that group up as a whole. Again, it's integrated with TeamQ, so it's an easy deployment. It works in conjunction with TeamQ, and it's mostly occurring behind the scenes and capturing that information throughout the workflow. And you can just also leverage kind of those best practices, those traditional practices that we have developed over the years with our knowledge and experience in contact centers of really coaching and developing agents, coaching, developing knowledge workers, providing best practices, learn and being able to distribute that across the board within the organization. Incorporating self-reviews and peer reviews for knowledge workers is an easy way to accomplish that within the tool. And then just using, again, those real-life scenarios, those things that aren't planned for, that the knowledge workers are really good at, where they use their creativity, they use their knowledge, and they provide results for your customers. That's a way to use those real-life scenarios to help improve not only their jobs, but other jobs within the enterprise as well. And then, as Ann mentioned at the top of the presentation, we have written a white paper that we'll be distributing out to all the participants here today on it's titled "Unstructured Conversations in a Structured World." It really talks about kind of the differences between task workers and knowledge workers, and how we can deploy this to meet those needs of those very specialized folks. So that's the conclusion of my presentation, but we do have time for questions.
Okay, thanks so much, David and Neil. So there are several questions in already, so we'll expect maybe a few more will trickle in. First of all, and this may be for Neil, can Envision be purchased and supported through AVST?
Oh yes, most definitely. We've not just done the engineering work, we've done the marketing and operations work so that you can do that. Typically, during a sales cycle, we will involve the Envision people. As you've heard David speak, you understand they know a lot more than we do about this marketplace. And there might be third-level technical support and things like that. But basically, when you go to get a TeamQ system that you want to have with Envision, you'll be able to do it all at kind of one-stop shopping.
Okay, great. Okay, next, can agents log in remotely from another location or a home office?
So this is a two-part answer.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you can both jump in there.
So
go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, for TeamQ, as long as you have a connection, typically a VPN connection, where your Windows workstation can, connect to the TeamQ elements that are in the enterprise, yes, it works fine remotely.
Yeah, and I would that would be the same for Click2Coach. So the client would go on the desktop and record the interactions, through VPN. And we have many customers that have work from home agents, and we have some customers that are 100% work from home. And it's a great way to record interactions, but also provide feedback. So as you're looking at things like brand protection or extending your culture to those folks that might not come into the office on a regular basis, providing feedback to those folks, it certainly lends itself to that really well. And the access to the portal is browser-based, and we support any browser out there, so it could be Chrome or IE, whatever browser they prefer, and that's how they would log into Click2Coach and get their coaching and feedback through the tool. Or if you have remote folks that are doing oversight or the supervisory role, they can do the same thing. So it does lend itself to remote workers.
Okay. Another, can an administrator make programming changes to the call center from offsite if necessary? Again, not sure who wants to answer that first.
Well, I think it's the same. I think it's a two-part answer. Yes, certainly, the administrator can run the client remotely just like an agent can. We have a couple of levels. There's supervisors that can make some changes for the queues that they're actually in charge of, assign recording to agents and things like that. And then we have administrators which actually can change how the queues function. Both of them use the same client, and it can be done remotely. It's just a matter of who you have set up to do what.
Yeah, and a similar answer in Click2Coach, there is an administrator permission that you can assign to one or more folks, and they have administrative capability to create new accounts, assign different privileges within the system. A lot of what you saw today is privilege-based or permissions-based. They can add workers, they can assign them to teams, they can create new groups or new teams within the system. They can do quite a bit of work. And then in addition, if you're an administrator with full access, you can create what we call mini administrators. So maybe you want to just give somebody in the contact center, a supervisor, some limited access to maybe just add new people to their team or change some information about existing team members. You can give them kind of limited administrative rights as well.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, next question. With the client integration for voice recording, is there no integration required with the phone system?
Well, there is two pieces to that. If your agents are taking phone calls directly through their PC, so they might have a headset plugged into the PC, there is no additional hardware required, and we'll record the conversation, directly through the PC and the screen as well, and then that gets bundled and pushed to the cloud. If they have a separate phone or a separate headset that's plugged into a traditional phone, we provide what we call an audio adapter cable, so it'll plug in between the phone and the headset, or the phone and the speaker mic, and then that goes into a USB port or into an audio import, and it shows up as a audio device within the computer, and then we pull the audio from there. So there's no need for a traditional connection to a phone system. We do have integrations with traditional phone systems like Avaya and Cisco, but in this case, because we're tightly integrated with TeamQ, they provide us information we need about the call, like when a call starts, when a call ends, who's on the phone. Traditional CTI data is pushed into our recording as metadata. Any extended data that's within TeamQ can also be pushed in to Click2Coach as metadata as well. So it really is a very nice kind of self-contained deployment with the advent of the integration with TeamQ.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, so those are all the questions that came in. If there's any others, we'll certainly take them offline. and if they're still coming across. And I want to just make one quick announcement, too, on this. We do have a webinar that covers more in-depth on TeamQ, and I think we ran that one about a month ago, 2-3 weeks ago. Just want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. Thanks, Neil and David, for the presentation. Certainly, if you have follow-on questions at any time, you can send them to us at info@avst.com, and we'll get that to the right person. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
To learn more about AVST, please visit www.avst.com.